Here's a quick note about the X-ray display options in Blender. Most of the time during this tutorial, I'll be working in solid mode. And while I'm in solid mode, I can use this X-ray option to make the object semi-transparent, and then I can see the bones through the mesh and so on. Of course, you can turn this off and you can select your rig and then go to the armature tab and turn on in front. Okay, that is another way to display the bones through the mesh. But here is why I'm explaining this. Notice that if I turn on this X-ray option here, and then I look at these additional options, there is another option called X-ray. And if I turn it off here, it will be off here as well. Okay, so these two options, these two settings are linked perfectly to each other. If I go to edit mode, for example, it is the exact same thing. I can make the mesh semi-transparent or not, and this setting here is linked to it. However, if I go to my rig and go to pose mode and now try to use this option, it does something different. When it is on, the bones are visible through the mesh, and when it's off, they are not visible through the mesh. However, it does not change the X-ray visibility of the mesh itself. If we look at this additional X-ray option here and play with it, you'll see that it no longer corresponds to this option. I can turn it on in here, but it doesn't affect this other X-ray option. And I don't like to complain about the interface in general, but this is one of those bad inconsistencies in the interface where you just have to ask why? Why, Blender developers? Why? But yeah, I just wanted to make you aware of this. So while I'm working, I may do something like this. My meshes may be in X-ray mode, then I would go to pose mode and try to make the meshes non-transparent. But if I play with this option, it doesn't do anything. So what I do is go back to object mode and then change my X-ray option, and then I go back to pose mode. Of course, instead I can play with this setting here, but because I'm using the pie menus, it is very fast. I can just go to object mode, change X-ray, and then go back to pose mode. So I'm mentioning this just in case you're confused why I'm going back to object mode and then back to pose mode. This is the reason. And I think it's important that you don't just try to figure out what buttons I'm pressing, but try to understand what I'm doing, and then you can do it with your own workflows. So in this case, we're talking about the visibility of the skeleton. And again, you can use the X-ray options, or of course you can also use the viewport display and use in front if you always want to see the bones through the mesh. So I hope this was clear, and I hope it helps you better follow the tutorial.